Mohini, thank
How are
you
you?
for coming to Sam. Hey Gino.
Thanks.
So, how was the workshop?
Fun. A lot
Amazing.
of fun.
Fantastic.
Okay, was it everything that you guys expected it to be?
Yeah, I mean, it felt like a concert when we were playing.
Uh-huh.
So that energy is always good. You know, it's not like a boring recital, you know, like what are they talking about? It was like we played, we felt the energy from the crowd. They were hooting and shouting at certain things. And when we do certain things and when they respond, we know, okay, these guys are aware
Into
of
it.
what's happening.
Yeah.
Right.
And they understand. Actually, the students were very well informed
Mm-hmm.
and they were educated, which was very nice to find out and learn as musicians. You know, it always brings us joy when we feel like they understand what they're doing.
Yeah, because
What we are doing.
sometimes we can geek out a lot, and in the performance, it's also the entertainment aspect is very strong. But over here, since we're doing on an educational platform, yeah, it leads to an entertainment zone. But when you can get intricate with certain things and they respond, that you know that okay, I can go deep.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Awesome. So obviously this, you guys are here in Chennai right now as part of Mamoji's India tour. How's the tour been so far?
Fantastic. We started, of course, in home base Mumbai,
Uh-huh.
then did a gig in Pune, then we went to Hyderabad, we went to Bangalore, went to Kolkata.
Yeah. Are
Yeah.
we missing anything?
Then we went to Romania, which was not
Yeah.
really the India tour, but we
Okay.
were at a
Yeah,
jazz
that was
festival.
squeezed in the
Right.
Mamoji India tour.
So
Right.
happy to, and we're kind of ending it in Chennai,
Yeah.
but we have a gig in Mumbai next week
Yeah,
too.
we do have a gig on the 18th. We're playing at the Phoenix Market City, and we are missing a very key member of the band, Mark.
Mark.
Yeah.
Mark, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so
Unfortunately,
nice.
Mark was, not able to get Mark this time around, but yeah, sure. Soon. So, how do you guys describe the sound of your band?
That's a constant discussion.
Yeah, we
Right.
always talk about it. I think it's very prog rock. Gino thinks it's very neo prog.
Okay.
Yeah, the thing is because it's a sax based drums trio, but normally people would think jazz, right? But it's not jazz. It's more like a guitar trio, sonic scape, but Mark's a jazz saxophone player.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So his vocal, not vocal, but his vocabulary and his language, the way he, navigates is very Western, very jazz. So that brings in a little bit of that jazz element to the rhythm section, and we bring in a lot of the fusion element. That blend is super fun and super interesting and unique, and you don't get to hear that very often, like in any other band. When we came together the very first time at Gino's Den, Mark already had written out so many songs, and he said, you know what, let's just go to Gino's place and we'll just play. And he's a fast writer. He writes songs very fast. He'll write a song on the flight, he'll write like 2 songs on the way back. He's really fast and he's very enthusiastic, and he'll talk to us with ideas and stuff. So we went in, we played, and it felt so natural and comfortable. And not only did we sound good, but we were coming up with different things, different ideas, and immediately we looked at each other and we were like, wow, this is a very different sound. nobody's doing that yet, and it's got to be out. Like it needs to be said. There was something to be said, and we felt the need of just getting out and writing more and more music, and this band to like get out in the world, you know.
Nothing was forced actually. Everything
Yeah.
was naturally happening, and it is. We work a lot as a rhythm section together, bass and drums, in many other different scenarios. But for both of us, this has been the most unique one.
Right.
Yeah.
It ticks a lot of boxes. It gets, because Mohini comes from a jazz funk bass to fusion to working with AR, you know, that whole world of music.
Right.
And Mark writing jazz from a jazz musician's point of view, but he was also very influenced by all the recordings Mohini was doing with these prog rock metal guitar players.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Like Dream Theater, you know,
Right.
Jordan Rudess, Steve Vai, and like every time he would come back from work at home, he would hear me record on these albums.
Right.
I'm like, wow, these guitar players are so cool.
Yeah.
Like we should write songs like this. And as a saxophone player, like I have never heard any saxophonist write songs like this, you know? It was fascinating for the two of us to see
Yeah.
Mark come out of his like jazz shell and still be him, but in a different box, you know?
Right. Right.
Yeah, but this is great because I get to play whatever I like to play in
Yeah.
these songs.
Those
It's
are
amazing.
usually the best
Yeah,
settings.
and what I
guess.
loved about Mark's writing is he never puts drums in his songs. So it's just the melodies and the structure with a click.
Right.
So I get to compose my drum parts for each song. You know?
Right.
So I really like that.
And it's a collective effort. He writes, he makes the structure, like the rough structure and the arrangement and everything, melodies, everything. He'll have a rough idea for the groove as
Chords.
well, chords, you know, and then we'll play together. And if I have an idea or Gino has an idea, we will use that instead,
Right.
you know. Or if there's whatever is already there, if that sounds good, then I will try my best to see what I can do from my end to make it sound even better, you know? So with this project, especially, I'm using a lot of synth pedals,
Right.
which I had never before done in any other band. I use distortion pedals, like I only started using pedals, I would say, like in the last year, I would say I started
2 years.
heavily using like pedal boards and stuff and started getting into it. I would say like 2 years maybe.
Who built your pedal board?
I only built, but first,
Mm.
I am very honored to say that my first pedal board was built by Steve Vai's techie,
The German
Thomas
Yeah.
Thomas Nordegg.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he built my first pedal board, and I played with my first pedal board at Alva's Auditorium, and I did a masterclass at MI. And he was there helping me around and stuff, and he educated me a lot about
Right.
all this stuff. And then the second pedal board I made using all the products that I keep getting by a lot of companies.
Sure.
And so this one has like a lot of synth pedals, a lot of different just fun sounds to play with, and yeah.
Yeah, Mohini and Mamoji is like the bass player and the guitar player.
Yeah. Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, we just
Yeah.
experienced a lot of the sounds. We got to almost got like a mini demo of some
Oh,
of the
trust me,
tones.
that was not even like 20% of it. There's so much more that happens with Mamoji.
Right.
You have to come to our show to actually experience the whole high with
Right.
Mamoji.
No,
yeah.
I'm sure. So, I mean, obviously, both of you are part of so many projects, right? So, I was wondering now, for someone who's part of multiple projects, how do you guys, switch your mindset from one to another? Is it something like, almost throughout the time everything's running in parallel? Or is it like, for 2 months now I'm focusing on Mamoji, and then next 2 months there's a tour somewhere else, so my focus is totally going to be on that?
It runs parallel actually. It depends on the workload. Sometimes, like for example, tomorrow's a show with Chandresh Kudwa, who's like a great shred guitar player, rock
and
guitar
roll.
player.
Right.
Yeah.
So we played on his album. So we have hit like 10 originals plus a couple of worked out covers. So we have that tomorrow. And we had the Mamoji gig, so it's just that switch.
Right.
Just switch to that.
Right.
Yeah, but I think we as musicians are able to focus carefully, but still have that in the back of the mind, which is a talent, I think. It's
I
a
think
gift.
we've been also doing this ever
For a
since
long
we started
time,
working,
yeah.
playing
Sure.
with. We never played with one band from the
Yes.
beginning.
Right.
I think we're not used to that. I think we're always doing multiple things at once. So we are kind of used to that nature
Right.
of working, you know.
Right.
Yeah, like tomorrow, Chandresh. Then we have again Mamoji on the 18th, and between that,
Then
I have a
Ridu
couple.
on 23rd.
Yeah, so we're playing with Rhythm Shaw, another great guitar player. We're playing on the 23rd. Mark is playing as well. So that's
Completely
a completely
different
different
songs.
set, you know.
Right.
And all of these sets are very different musically, you know. This is very prog rock, tomorrow's is very rock and roll, Ritu's is very jazz rock, you know. My set is very technical, you know, my music. And then we not only just live shows, but when we get home and we're in the studio, he's working for multiple clients of his, and
Right.
I'm working for a lot of other clients from all over the world, and we're recording, you know, constantly. There will be days sometimes I'll be recording for 4 clients in a day, you know.
Right.
So it's non-stop.
Right.
But we do take breaks also.
Yeah.
Have to sometimes,
But
like
now,
we were
of
saying.
course,
Yeah.
Hopefully next year we will focus a lot on Mamoji,
Mamoji,
because
yeah.
once the album comes out, we're wanting to hit a tour out of the country
Yeah.
and travel different places.
All right. So when can we expect the album? Any...
Next month, hopefully.
December.
Yeah.
Okay.
December. Yeah.
And that's when you're also saying you want like to follow it with a tour and stuff.
Yeah,
Yes.
so probably maybe spring or summer tour next year in
Yeah.
Europe.
Europe. Yeah.
Amazing. So another thing, obviously, I know that both of you come from a family of music. So for example, most of the musicians that I know, right, they're not from families of musicians. So part of being the whole part of being a musician for them is also a rebellious thing.
True.
Was it the other way around for you guys? Did you ever feel that, okay, you know what, maybe I should just become a doctor because, like, that my father's a musician and I need to go as far away from that as possible?
You know, should go for that. And my story is very different.
Yeah, very
Yeah.
different stories. I come from, to my knowledge, 5 generations of musicians. And my father's ancestors were from Nepal, Kathmandu, right? My father grew up in Darjeeling. So, with that kind of attitude, according to my dad, he told me that my grandfather was quite strict when he was teaching him piano and trumpet. And my dad was playing in clubs when he was 13 years old,
Wow.
playing piano, guitar, and trumpet with my grandfather, right? So that was like also you're working. He used to go to school, come back, finish homework, go to a club, play the show, and come back
Wow.
in Darjeeling. So this is that life. That's all he knew. But I was a different case because he was in Mumbai. He became really successful, and his nature was very different. That he didn't force me into anything, but he created an environment.
Right.
There was instruments at home. I was attending rehearsals. I was in the studio when he does recordings, watching gigs, meeting and seeing all the greatest musicians probably in the city. So it was a natural inclination for me to pick up something.
Right.
And I picked the drums because that was the easiest instrument for me to play. I
Right.
did piano lessons, but it didn't take. But when I tried the drums, it just was easy.
Right.
And then I was around like Ranjit Barot and Sivamani from a young age. So that fascinated me, the physicalness of that instrument. And it just stuck, basically. Like they
Right.
had to tell me to stop practicing. Yeah, so
Yeah.
it was a very natural evolution.
Nice.
I didn't have a choice. I had to do music. My father was very strict. I grew up in a very strict Bengali household. And my mom was the homemaker. After she had me and my sister, she kind of became the housewife. But she was working a lot at one point before she had us. But because there was no extended family support, she had to stay home and take care of me and my sister. And because my parents had a very hard life when they moved from Calcutta to Mumbai, and they were musicians, they didn't have a home, they didn't have as much money as other people did, so they were starting from scratch, so they stayed at paying guests, and they had to knock on people's doors to actually use the washroom. They would save up money by eating leftover food and stuff from other people's plates, or they would go to canteen in the hospital and eat that food and stuff, and they saved up a lot of money. And then they had me, and so they knew like what it was to struggle in life. So they wanted me and my sister. They always wanted to have two kids, and they wanted us kids, to be musicians and independent. We turned out to be girls. My mom and dad were really happy, but the extended family were not happy. So they immediately cut relationship with us. So I never got like grandfather or grandmother love. I grew up with just my mom and dad and my sister. We never had like any relationship with our extended family. And in result of that, there were a lot of things that my mom and dad had to go through, and they ended up making some mistakes in the way, in the upbringing of me and my sister, where they ended up forcing us to do things like, learning music, but we didn't want to do it. I mean, we just wanted to play with kids, go out to movies, hang out, and do all the fun things that our age kids would do. But they had different plans. They wanted us to be independent first so that we have enough money and then we can do whatever we want. So my childhood was very strict. I would wake up like 5 a.m. in the morning, 5:30 my school bus would come, take me to school, starts at 6 a.m. till 12 p.m. I'm in school. By the time I come back home, it's like 12:30, 1 p.m. lunch, then do my school homework, freshen up, then my tutor would come home. They didn't even allow me to go out and do classes outside because they didn't want any distractions. So they hired a private tutor. They would work hard and hired a private tutor, so she would come home and teach me for like 2.5 hours or so, and then I would do her homework. So it's like going to two schools almost, And then after that is done, my dad would give me my bass lessons. So it was a packed day every day,
Wow.
And Sunday were usually kind of the days where we would go down and play football sometimes. My sister was not the tomboyish type of girl. I was, so I enjoyed playing cricket. That Sunday I was like my day. I would really have fun and stuff. But at a young age, I did realize that to be independent and to have the freedom and to get out of my mom and dad's control. I think everybody has their own story, but I was very rebellious and I wanted to get out of the house. So I knew money was the only way to get out of the house, right?
Sure.
If I want to have my own private space, I need money. And since I knew music and father had done half of the hard work, I was like, okay, it's already invested in me now.
Right.
I can't learn something new because then it'll take me more time.
Right.
So let's just give it a shot, and whatever comes my way, I'm going to prove myself, earn as much money as I can, and get out. So I moved out at 17 after working hard and locking myself in room and stuff. In my home. At that time, I was living with my parents. And then when I moved out, I was just like so happy that I could take that call. And of course, there were a lot of fights. I know for like a 17-year-old to get out of the house from an Indian household, and it's difficult. It's very difficult. Yes, there will be a lot of fights in the house, but you gotta deal with it. Like, you have to deal with it. I gathered my guts and I didn't speak to my dad for like 2.5 years or so after that because he was so pissed,
Yeah, sure.
He said some things, and if, people get angry, say things, and like, oh, you're never going to be successful, this and that. And blah, blah, blah. I was like, I'm going to prove it to you.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if he said that because he wanted me to be successful and he had other plans, but I don't know.
Yeah.
So, it ended up happening.
But it lit a fire either way.
Yeah. So that all that fire just came out of playing,
Right.
I just like locked myself in the room, would not eat, and just practice,
Crazy.
and just my.
So now you're making up for all the eating.
yeah. Now I'm at a position in my life where I am just like I can be a kid again.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in a
What
way,
game are you playing right now?
hey, Counter-Strike Condition Zero.
Oh, okay.
So I'm living my like childhood life now. I feel like a 17-year-old now, 13-year-old now, and I can do whatever I want. But I have responsibilities now,
Yeah.
and so yeah, life turned out fine. But yes, and I grew up very fast, I would say,
Right.
in
Well, that's
result of playing with mature people and well-experienced people.
Right.
So yes, my life was totally different
Right.
from Gino's. Having musician parents does not always help. You still got to prove yourself.
Of course.
Oh, yeah.
He did
that's
not.
for
Of
sure.
course.
Yeah, like he definitely took me to like all the places that he was playing in, and I got to see him play and work and stuff. Exposed to the musical environment, it was lovely. I loved
He
going there.
brought you home too.
Yeah, and he brought me to Ranjit uncle, he brought me to
Dad.
Gino. He had great intentions. He wanted his kid to be like something. So, yeah, there will be mistakes. Parents also make mistakes, but then you just like, better it with your own life, with your own doing. So,
Sure.
I did that.
Right.
And I'm proud of myself, and my parents are very proud of me, and this is my achievement.
Sure.
Having that relationship with my family is an achievement, and playing with Gino, playing with Mark, and having the best surrounding and people around me is an achievement for me. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's a very, very inspiring story. So, obviously, I'm assuming that for a pretty, there was probably a period in your life where there was a lot of uncertainty about the future, like when you moved out when you were 17 and stuff. Was there one moment where, there was some kind of achievement or some gig or something that happened where you were like, I think everything's going to be fine now? Like,
I was never afraid of failing. I was never afraid of falling back down again, because when I was living with my parents, I felt like I was stuck. So there was no feeling any worse from that. So when I moved out and there were, let's say, hard times, I was not afraid of feeling defeated. So I was okay if I lost that house and if I was not able to pay the rent or whatever. I was okay to just, I had set up my mind, like, even if I have to just stay on the street for a few days. It's interesting that we're talking about this now, but I had these thoughts.
Right.
As a 15, 16-year-old. I was planning it for a long time. And I just said to myself, if that day comes ever, I'll be ready. You know?
Wow.
oh,
Yeah. So I just kept doing, honestly. I just didn't think about failing. I was not afraid. I just kept doing. And the more that came to me, the more I challenged myself and the more I got better. And fortunately, I was a very good business person from the very start. So when I moved out, I started managing myself. And I was very good at just talking to people, and I was very confident. And I guess that's the reason why I'm managing Mamoji also.
Right.
I'm good at pitching. I like doing business. That's another thing that I enjoy doing. And I'm a very crafty person. I love not just music, but apart from music, I love painting. I love stitching. I literally painted my own walls in my house.
Wow.
In one of the rooms. So I love doing different things.
Right.
Yeah, just detaching. And it's like therapy for me.
Sure. And was it always the bass? Was it like bass from the day one?
Yeah, again, I didn't have any choice. It was the only instrument that was in my house. Maybe if there were other instruments, maybe I would have taken it up. I always had a lot of love for drums, So in pandemic, when we had a lot of time, I started taking lessons from Gino.
Right.
And then the real world kicked in, and it was like, oh shit,
Right,
now I have to go
right.
back to my job.
Right. No, actually, that's interesting. So, what was the pandemic like for you guys?
How was it for you?
It was good and bad. It was good to be home so much when when your job requires you to travel and play concerts on birthdays and all holidays you're out.
Right.
So to be home for so long was kind of nice.
For a few months.
For a few months, yeah.
Right.
But because I also teach at the NMIMS School of Performing Arts, so
Right.
that was ongoing during the pandemic, and it was completely online.
Online, yeah. That was,
And so music education was something that I took a little bit more seriously. I was doing that plus doing a couple of private lessons because I had free time.
Right.
Yeah.
There were no gigs, maybe a couple of virtual events here and there, but not like the normal scene of travel. So yeah, I practiced a lot actually. I did.
Right.
And I said now's the time to really kind of push the level up a little bit. So
Right.
Yeah. I enjoyed being at home. I love.
yeah.
I don't like traveling that much. So I know I'm a touring musician. I'm saying that,
Yeah.
but I hate traveling, man. I really hate traveling. I wish I can just be at home and tour from home. Like live video or something. A pandemic was really fun for me, and I started getting a lot of recording sessions from different people. New clients started
Right.
coming in, and I started making songs for people like Chad Smith from Red Hot Chili Peppers, and wrote some songs for what is that? Shit, I forgot the name of the production team. Uh, anyway, so just a bunch of like directors and bass players actually from the US. They were hiring a lot of people, musicians, to for their albums, and I wrote a lot of songs, and I got to explore the kind of the producer side of me in pandemic, and I was making songs, not just playing bass,
Right.
which was kind of fun. I love taking my own time and doing
Yeah.
my things in my own time.
Yeah. Nice. I know this next question is a little difficult and it's it's too general, but what advice would you give to upcoming musicians, or rather, an aspiring musician?
Practice hard, and like I always tell people, it's like, yeah, once you start working and real life hits you, you got to pay the bills, so you have to
Yeah.
do certain things. And never forget why you started playing your instrument in the first place. Like when you
Yeah.
were 15, what excited you about playing music? You know, a lot of people have to feel that they need to work only in the commercial zone to make a living. That's true on some level, but if you put in the extra effort, you can do both.
Yes.
The
Be
effort has to come
open-minded,
from you.
yeah.
A lot of musicians say, "Oh, the scene doesn't provide this and that," but if you do the right work,
Yeah.
it comes to you. You know.
Yeah.
So put in the practice, like I said in the workshop, like before life begins. Get the practice in, like the fundamentals, the theory, the technique. All that helps you later on. Whichever musicians you admire, most of them have an incredible technique because they practiced a lot.
Yeah.
So I think focus on that in your early days a lot.
Yeah.
And never forget why you started, because the fun aspect, no matter how serious it gets, the fun aspect will keep you enthusiastic and make you a better musician.
Right.
Yeah, and to add to what Gino said, don't care about what others are saying, just mind your business. There will be people saying good and bad all the time. It really doesn't matter because they're not going to help you, You have to help yourself ultimately, So just stay focused and dedicate yourself completely into what you want to do in life. And if you're practicing hard enough, and if you're willing to take that initiative to make that change and prioritize yourself in life, then the universe will give it back to you for sure.
Right. Well, I
Yeah.
think that was pretty good. So obviously, we're looking forward to Mamoji's album release next month, and then you guys are going to be doing a tour. Hopefully, I also get to catch at least one of those gigs.
sure.
What about your other projects? What else are we looking forward from Gino Banks and from Mohini Dey?
Well, I had an album out many years ago, I think 2017, so I think it's due for another solo album. So I'm kind of gonna look into that zone. I also do a lot of my dad's work. So we
Right.
have a project with dad called The Guitar Synergy,
Okay.
which features Mohini, Rhythm Shaw, and Kush Upadhyay.
Okay.
We used to play gigs when I remember. What are the ages? Kush was 16, Mohini was 17, Ridu was 18. They were not even allowed in the club where we played.
Yeah.
But this project, we kind of just over the last couple of years recorded the songs. So maybe that'll come out early next year.
Nice. Amazing.
I recently recorded on Simon Phillips' project. I was in
Wow.
Zurich, and he was the producer for Darwin, this amazing guitar player. And Simon Phillips was producing it. He played the drums for it. Guthrie Govan is playing guitar. Greg Howie is playing guitar. Matt
Bissonette singing.
Bissonette is singing, and a couple of other amazing musicians. And I was very honored to be a part of it. I was there for a whole month, and we recorded about 13 songs. And I got to explore like a different side of me. So that album is coming out hopefully early next year. And apart from that, like I said, I play for a lot of clients, so a lot of their albums are coming out. There is this amazing guitar player called Jan Rivera from the US, and his album has just come out. And if you are watching this, please go check out Jan Rivera. Marco Miniman is playing drums, and myself on bass. And there are lots of other musicians playing on that album as well. What else? My album is coming out next year as well. So
Last but not least.
yeah, and Mamoji is already working on the second album.
Oh,
so
all right.
yeah, so Life is good.
Yeah, it's going to be a packed year.
Awesome,
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
So, guys, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
coming to
Thank you,
Sam. I think the students they're absolutely ecstatic after the workshop, and thanks for doing this as well. And please, whenever next time you're in town for a gig or anything, just hit me up and
Yeah,
we'll make
we will.
something
We
happen.
will.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you for having
Thank you.
us.
Thank you.